let's talk about starting our life from scratch in our late 50s or early 60s. You know, no other generation has had this opportunity to be as healthy and to have as long of a timeline as we have in front of us, and be able to reinvent ourselves and really enjoy this next chapter of our lives. Yet it's also a period where we're a little apprehensive, we're a little concerned, maybe we're even a little bit worried. And I want to frame this really by naming and labeling what this chapter of our lives is. And I want to call it the youth of our senior years. Let's go for a walk and talk about how we can get the most out of this youth of our senior years, out of this vibrant period that frankly, my parents, by the time they got to be my age, their health was already compromised. And for many of us, our health is not compromised. We can look forward to another 30 or 40 years of life expectancy, and we can look forward to at least a decade, hopefully 2 decades, of vibrant, healthy time. And so I want to talk about some things to make the most of this period of time. So first off, I call this the youth of our senior years. And I think that label really frames it well, because we're at page 1 of an exciting chapter. And yes, we're through a lot of the book of life, but we still have a couple really wonderful chapters in front of us. For many of us, if we had kids, the kids are out of the home. Many of them are through college. They've got their own lives going on. Our mortgage is paid off. Maybe we've sold our house and we're renting, and the whole world is in front of us. So how do we get the most out of this chapter of our lives? And I've got 10 things that I've been thinking about as a financial advisor. I've shared these with my clients over the 20 years that I've worked advising people. I've found that these points really help them, and I hope that they help you, and frankly, they help me as well as I begin on this journey. So the first one is thinking about, you know, who are we destined to be? Who are you destined to be? Who do you really want to be? What do you want this next chapter to be? What's the biggest, hairy, audacious goal that you can set for this chapter? And I want you to think about doing that. And I want you to think about beginning with the end in mind. What is the goal? What would you like to experience out of this? You know, for so many of us, our lives have been about responsibility and doing the things that we're supposed to do. And now we're largely free of it. This is our time. It's about what we want to do. So I encourage you to think about, what is it that you want to do? For many of us, that might include some travel, or maybe a new hobby, or learning a new skill, and just investing time and money and effort in ourselves. So that's the first one, is, you know, who do we want to be? And I encourage you to think boldly and to really think about, you know, what's the biggest and boldest dream that you can have for yourself? Now, am I going to be a professional NBA star? Yeah, first off, at 6 foot tall, no. So be realistic, but dream big and think outside of the box. Okay, the second one is, you know, after a lifetime of doing the right things and being part of society, we often are overly concerned with what other people think. And one of the things, by the time you get to be our age, we realize that, you know what, people really don't care that much about us, right? They're busy with their own lives. And so don't let what we think other people might think hold us back. And just be true to ourselves, and our friends are going to understand, and the people that don't understand, that's okay too. And frankly, most people aren't going to think that much about it. Okay, number 3, I want you to think about the journey as opposed to the end point. Think about enjoying every day. I don't know about you, but as somebody that's almost 60 years old, so much joy has been stolen from me by focusing on the outcome, and then realizing that the joy and the fun was in the journey itself, as opposed to waiting to get to the outcome. And as we embark on this chapter, I want you to really think about enjoying each day of the journey, enjoying and embracing the challenge. Yes, begin with the end in mind. What is the biggest, boldest version of yourself, best version of yourself that you want to be? And then enjoy the journey on the way, including the setbacks, right? The next point is that failures are part of the process. Let's say that you want to travel and you go to a country and you're like, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. That's okay. You know, there's 200, I believe it's 220 countries in the world. And so if you go to the first country and you're like, this isn't what I thought it would be, that's okay. Maybe, you know, try something very different, a very different culture, or try traveling a different way. You know, instead of traveling with a group, maybe you travel by yourself, and instead of being on a tour bus, maybe you take public transportation when you're in the country, and you find out, and you get to mingle with the locals as opposed to be surrounded by other tourists as well. So you shake things up. If one thing didn't work for you, think about, is there another way to have this experience, and try a different angle at it, because failure is part of the process and it's part of the journey. So even when it's not what you thought it would be, when you get off a tour bus with 29 other people, and as a group you shuffle into a church and you look together and you're in the middle of this pod, and then you shuffle back to a restaurant, and you shuffle back on the bus. For a lot of people, they enjoy that. That's not my thing. But I had to learn that for myself. Okay, the next one is, many of us have limiting beliefs. We think, I'm not good at this. One of my challenges is learning a language. Well, I may not be the fastest language learner, but I can learn a language quickly enough, and I can learn the key phrases well enough that I can let people know that I care enough to learn some basic phrases in their language. So whatever those limiting beliefs are, maybe you don't think I'm not brave enough to do some of these different adventures, or I don't like traveling by myself, or whatever it is. I keep focusing on travel, but that's just one sliver of it. Maybe it's learning a new occupation, a new hobby. And whatever that limiting belief is, I encourage you to let go of that, because 9 times out of 10, that limiting belief is not true, and it's going to hold us back, and it's going to keep us from enjoying the journey. Okay, we talked about failure, and failure being part of the process, and just embracing that, right? Failure is just part of the journey. It's just a different dimension. It's another aspect of whatever that journey is that you're on. And if we let failure keep us from doing the things that we want to do, we're going to have fewer experiences, we're going to have fewer adventures, and we're going to leave a lot of joy on the table. And I want you to take all the meaty pieces of the joy and adventures, and I want you to have all the crumbs as well. So failure is part of the process. Don't let it hold you back. I also want you to think about committing to the change. I'm at the age now where pretty soon I'm going to be retiring. And that's going to be a big change. And the more I can embrace that and commit to it and say, okay, my past, I had a lot of fun in my previous career, and I'm going to commit to the new change. And I'm going to jump in with both feet, as opposed to having one foot back and being apprehensive and living in the past. I don't think any of us want that, but it can be the default if we're not careful. So I want you to think about jumping in with both feet and being excited for the future, and facing those challenges, facing those setbacks, facing potential failures as part of the process that comes with all the joy and the good things with it. So jump in with both feet. Okay, the next one is, many of us invested in ourselves many decades ago. We invested in our education, we invested in learning new skills, we invested in becoming the person that we wanted to be. And I want you to recommit to that, and recommit to investing in yourself and doing what you need to do to become that person. Invest both the time, but then also the money, right? It's really easy to kind of be frugal when it comes to investing in ourselves and saying, I don't need to do this. Now, it doesn't mean you jump in and you pay $20,000 for a master class on something that you might be interested in. Maybe you start with a $20 book, and if you like that, then you do a video course that you invest $100 in. And if you like that, maybe you do a live class that maybe is several $100s or $1,000. And then if you like that, then you jump into the master class. I have a friend that's in this chapter of her life, she's really into yoga, and she's ended up investing tens of thousands of dollars in her yoga education to become an instructor, to become a better practitioner. But she didn't start with the tens of thousands of dollars. She started, there was a monthly program where she had unlimited access to various yoga online classes. And as she found out that this was her thing, then she invested more and more of her money and time and effort into that. And I think we can learn a lot from that. So yes, we jump in. Yes, I want to encourage you to invest in yourself, both the time, the money, and the effort, and the brain space for the things that you think you'll enjoy doing. But there's no need to invest tens of thousands of dollars day one. I want you to make sure it's your thing before you do that. Okay, the next one is investing in new connections, new relationships, new people in your life, and really making that commitment, whatever this next chapter of your life is. One of the turning points is when you make your first friend in this new space, in this new area that you're passionate about, and now you have somebody to share with that. I apologize for the noise behind me. They're doing some repairs on this roof. Okay. And that reminds me, you know, this new adventure, these new journeys, reminds me of a quote, and I apologize, I'm not going to be able to attribute the quote. Probably somebody will know and will put it in the comments. But the quote goes, I think it might be a Buddha quote, that says we all have two lives. And the second one begins when we realize we have one life, right? And if we have one life, and if we're in our late 50s, if we're in our 60s, boy, it's go time. You know, if not now, when are we going to do it? So really embrace that time and really go for it. And then I talked about, you know, going in with both feet as opposed to having one foot in the past. And I just encourage you to jump. Not only put both feet in, but jump. Don't be apprehensive. Jump and embrace this new life. And then I want you to, in whatever this new adventure is, you know, find those first couple of anchors. I talked about relationships, but there's other anchors that make it feel like this is your new life, this is your new home, this is the new you. And think about what those anchors are that make it feel like you've gone from the past into the future, and now both feet are in the future, and you have those anchors anchoring you in the future. And at the same time, you know, let's learn from our past. Let's learn from maybe the mistakes we've done in the past, and not bring that baggage with us. You know, if we find ourselves having some common thoughts like, oh, this always happens, or, you know, these types of things happen, it's probably a sign to us that we need to do some self-reflection and we need to grow, right? If something is following us from our past life, it's probably us, not them. So as you're thinking about your new life, as in your late 50s, your early 60s, again, I'm encouraging you to embrace this with both hands and give it a big bear hug. And part of that is, you know, until we get to this point, for people that are younger watching this, you know, it's not just about getting to the point where you can retire, but it's also about enjoying the entire journey. And it's why I made this video here, which are 7 things that I want you to stop doing in your 50s and 60s to enjoy the journey until you get to the start line that is retirement. 7 things to stop doing in your 50s and 60s to enjoy the journey more. Thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you in there. Bye-bye.